And those were your latest commodities updates. I am Pius Kojobaka. Grateful you could join us on Business Live. On to our very first story. International ratings agency Fitch has upgraded Ghana's long-term local currency issuer default rating to CCC from RD. Now, the upgrade of the ratings on Ghana's local currency dominated debt follows the completion of the domestic debt exchange program by Ghana in February 2023. Let's go on Zoom and get more understanding on this latest ratings from economist and director at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Quartey, for more. Grateful, Professor Quartey, you could join us on Business Live. Certainly a good news, you would say. And what will this mean to our economy, first off?
Yeah, good evening to your discerning viewers. It is good news, but it's early days yet. I don't think we should be celebrating at this point. There's still a long way to go. Certainly, we've been upgraded because now, with the payment on the local bonds that has occurred, it has, and also the debt exchange program has enhanced the government's ability to have some liquidity to settle some of the repayment. So we are going to basically enjoy some relief in terms of interest payments in 2023. Roughly about 10% of expected revenue will be saved. And also in 2024, we will save some revenue. So it gives government some fiscal space. And that's a good signal for Fitch. And also with the two bonds that matured, that were settled on March 13th, all this gives indication that we are back on track and gradually moving towards some stability. So I think on the basis of that, we got the upward adjustment or upgrade.
Interesting. I'm wondering how this will help in our negotiation with China in terms of our debt cancellation or debt reprofiling. Do you think it will play any role in that?
Well, I think China knows where we are and very much aware where we are going to. I believe the Chinese would come on board, but it would involve some level of negotiation, some level of engagement. And I am very certain that this has been happening over the past couple of months. So we just have to deepen that discussion and ensure that it becomes a win-win situation. China has been a development partner for decades. We've seen them, the National Theatre and many other projects that China has funded over the years. So I'm sure that they would understand. I don't think we should use this opportunity to kind of bully China into some kind of agreement, but it's all about negotiation, and I'm sure it will help in to our benefit, seeing that the domestic people have shown some goodwill, they have sacrificed, and we are therefore calling on the international community to do so.
Do you hold the view that looking at how we've been upgraded, when we should go, or should we go to the international market, it will be easy? How do you think that will also play out with that?
I think it's too early to be thinking on the international market. That is what is causing our problem now. It's expensive. We are paying between 8 to 9% in some of the majority of the loans that we have gone for. So I don't think we should be thinking about the international market now. We should rather be thinking about raising more revenue domestically. We should be thinking about, after we sign on to the IMF program, or what it would take to sign on to the program and get the reliefs, and how we can attract other bilateral donors who will give us concessional loans, not the capital market. It is just too early and very expensive. That is what caused the petrodollar crisis in the 80s. And if we are not careful, we'll go back to that problem again. Let's use this opportunity to restructure, to transform the economy, so that this vicious cycle of always running to the IMF will stop.
Professor Quartey, I want to know, there are predictions that we may not get the deal by the end of March. Some are also believing that we will get it maybe somewhere in May. Now, do you think that we are able to secure a deal factoring this upgrade?
Well, I don't see us getting the final deal in March, because already in March, and we haven't concluded negotiations with China, we haven't concluded negotiations with the um, external creditors. So it will be too early for one to conclude that we'll get a deal by March. But I think we'll make significant progress by end of this month, and hopefully by May. But the documents have to go to the IMF board for approval, and it takes time to get all these things ready. So I am more optimistic towards May than March.
Let's get your perception or your position on this latest development, where we do know that the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana currently, had begun, their engagement to announce a new policy rate. And of course, this is going to be the 111th time, the meeting will be held. Now, there are some who hold the view that we need to have, a maintenance of the policy rate. Where do you stand on that? Factoring inflation.
Well, inflation is coming down marginally. Exchange rate has been relatively stable. But I would say that even with the debt exchange program, you've seen some bonds, coupon holders have been paid, and there's still some liquidity in the system. So Bank of Ghana should strike a good balance. I would predict that the policy rate be maintained at this point, although some signs are towards a downward adjustment. But I think at this point, it is better to maintain, not to rather increase the policy rate, try to mop up excess liquidity. Because when we do so, it increases lending rates and other rates, and that also hurts the real sector. We have to borrow manufacturers, traders, and all the other key sectors that matter. We have to borrow at higher interest rates. So at this point, I would rather urge that we maintain the rate and see how the market develops.
And what is going to be the implication of that?
Well, there'll be some bit of liquidity in the system, but given that exchange rate has been fairly stable, I think inflation might not, I don't expect inflation to go up. It might either reduce or remain close to where it is currently. And so maintaining the rates will be good. At least we can then use the time to study the market, study the financial market carefully, and then
it seems Professor Peter Quartey's line has frozen, and as and when we get him, we shall bring him on stream to finish his remarks on that. But